Okay. We're up to Daf Nun Dalid Amid Aleph, and yesterday we began the sugya basically about the Mizbeach, and we saw that the Mizbeach had a yisoid, and the yisoid was important for Nesinas Dam, that you had to put Nesinas Dam connected the yisoid by the Kabbanis, with the exception of the Chatas, which went on top. The yisoid encompassed the north side and the west side, but it wasn't on the south side and it wasn't on the east side, because the south side and the east side were in the chelik of Yehuda, and the mizbeach had to be in the chelik of Binyamin. So when you had to put the dam on the mizbeach, you had to put it in the place where it was Binyamin's chelik. So that was the yisoid. So the Gemara now is going to question that idea, the concept of yisoid, and we're going to see a machlokes between Rabbi and Levi whether it's a virtual yisod or or not. We're going to see it's very interesting machlok. Very nice Gemara today. Very nice Gemara. Okay, so we're up to Mesiveh, three lines down. Mesiveh, we're questioning the idea of that there was no yisod. Now, to understand this Gemara, you have to know that the Oila Sa'if was performed on the northeast, excuse me, the southeast. The Oila Sa'if was performed in the southeast. So again, if we're looking at the Mizbeach, if we're looking at the Mizbeach on the southeast side over here, there is no Yisoid, right over here by 19 on the chart over here, there is no Yisoid. Yet this is the Makam on top where you did the Oila Sa'if. The Oila Sa'if was done on the top. He would stand on the Soivev and he would perform Oila Sa'if. The problem is going to be if there was no Yisod over here, so when he performs the Malika, the dam is going to fall on the ground. We need the dam to fall on the Mizbeach, right? We need the dam to be on the Mizbeach. If there's no Yisod there, how can there be what? How can you perform the mitzvah of what? Of Alisaif? Ketzad, Nasis, not Nasis, how was it done? They would go ahead and cut both simanim, right? As opposed to the chatas oif that they only cut one siman. By the oilas oif, the malika would go ahead and cut two simanim. Umavdil, he would separate the head. Umematze dama al kerem mizbeach, and he would push the dam on the kerem mizbeach. As opposed to the chatas oif fellas where he threw it, he was mazeh. The oilas oif you just pushed. So you push on mizbeach. If you can tell me on the southeast corner there was no yisod, ba'avira ba'alma hu dekavid, could they do it ba'avir the alma? Now again, it has to be on the Binyamin Schelik, fellas. It has to be in Binyamin Schelik. So you have the southeast corner. How in the world can you do malika if there's no yisod? It's going to fall on the ground. So I'm Rav Nachman by Yitzchak. Ema kachisnu avira de Binyamin. The avir belonged to Binyamin. Karka de Yehuda, and the karka what belonged to Yehuda. What Rashi says. Let's see Rashi, guys. Ema. Ve'ikal meimar l'mayla mi gimel. It's got to be above gimel, because less than gimel we're going to say lavud, and it would be on the ground. So it has to be above gimel. There was a ledge that was above gimel. The lav karkahu, that wasn't part of the karka. Also, kimin belita katana. They made like a small protrusion. I can't say that quickly. Protrusion.
Protrusion.
I was waiting for you, Dr. Prest. Keneged oisa hakeren, opposite that keren, lekabel bodam oila sa'if, shelo yipa la'aretz, v'kir mizbeach mikri, avol yisoid loy mikri, lahachshir hakeren lematan domim hatzrichen nasein keneged yisoid. She'en yisoid elam hamiyusid ba'aretz. So the guy's very geschmack. Listen, look, eye contact. We need, for all intents and purposes, for the all dam to be in the chelik of Binyamin, correct? So what did they do? Listen to this geschmack. Here's your mizbeach. Here is the southeast, right? This is north, and this is by me is southeast. Good. So watch. I have no yisod over here. So the Gemara's kasher is, how could you perform it? It has to be on the mizbeach. So it doesn't say it has to be in yisod. It says el kira mizbeach. They would go ahead, make a ledge, put it three tefachim above, because 3 tefachim above we say It's out of the realm of lavud. Lavud would go ahead and put it on the ground. So over here, it would be Geshmak. Regarding the Oila Sa'if, that you need Kerem Mizbeach Am Yaitza, because that area belongs to Binyamin. But for any other carbon, it would not be acceptable, because when I need your site of Mizbeach, the site has to be on the ground. And the site can only be in the Chelik of Binyamin. Again, the Mizbeach can only be in the Chelik of Binyamin. Memela, al Oila Sa'if, they were Yaitza, right? Because it was, you needed Kerem Mizbeach, but al Yisoid, there wasn't a Yisoid, and therefore the Gemara has no kasha. Therefore, your kasha, if you want to say there's no Yisoid on the southeast side, there is no Yisoid over there. Okay, says the Gemara Vaita. My loy habele Yisoid. What do you mean there wasn't a Yisoid? What does that mean that there wasn't a Yisoid? You tell me there wasn't a Yisoid. Well, let's make us that there wasn't a Yisoid. So Rav Amar, Bibinyan. There was no physical Yisoid. In other words, if you looked at the Mizbeach, guys, this is important for most of the rest of the daf. If you looked at the Mizbeach, there was no physical binyan. It was missing. You would see on the north and west, you would see an amma protrusion on both sides. The southeast, you'd be missing that amma. The southeast, you'd be missing that amma. Levi amma bedomim. No. It was unilateral. It was across the board. In other words, it was a perfect square. It was 32 by 32. It was a perfect square. And you did have the physical Yisoid. What you didn't have is the halacha of Yisoid. That in other words, if you put the dam on that side, it won't be considered a Yisoid Mizbeach. So in other words, this is a virtual Yisoid. You have a real Yisoid over here. However, virtually it's not. It's not. I'm not using virtual. Virtual means that it's not really there. No. So there is no Yisoid. There's a physical Yisoid that doesn't have it's a non-halachic Yisoid. So again, Rav says physically you saw nothing. According to Levi, if you look, you saw the same thing. However, it's not considered Yisoid Linyan Matan Damim. Now the Gemara is going to try to figure out according to who. Now the pasuk it says Binyamin Zev Yitroif Bamin Hanoisin Babaikin Noisin something Uber Vichalik Shalol. Okay, this is the Rivka. I'm saying, Shir, I love you. If your granddaughter calls you, you got to answer.
What time's Yitzi phone again?
I couldn't open my mic fast enough.
Stavka said shit when Yitzi's working. Unless he has this machshava in the middle to go ahead and very, very funny. Lenny, funny. Anyway, so Rav is mitargim again the pasuk. He's mitargim the pasuk. It says be'ach sante yispene madbecha. Be'ach sante means in his chelik. Yispene, it should be built madbecha the mizbeach. Because again, according to Rav, only the Mizbeach is in the Chelik of Binyamin. Levi mitargim that pasuk, ba'achasante yispene makdesha. In his Chelik will be built the Beis Hamikdash, right? What does Makdash mean? Mokim mikudish l'damim, a place that's mikudish for damim. So depending upon the way they learn pshat, you would translate that pasuk, but it means that Binyamin Zev Yitroif. Okay. Tashma. Now we're going to ask. It went on the whole north side, and on the west side. Right? So l'chayra, what do you see? You see it wasn't there. You see, it's a kash on Levi. Levi said it was there, correct? Levi, according to you, Levi, you had a whole Yisoid. Over here it says you only had an amma, right? Let's get back to this picture. If you look real close, fellas, real close, I can make this bigger. You see that over here where the pointer is? Go to the northeast on top where I put the pointer. You see that little projectile over there? And look at the southwest. You see the projectile over there? So it was Eichel and Amma over here and an Amma over here. So the kasha is, according to you, Levi, it should be across all the way down here, right? According to Rav, it makes a lot of sense. There was nothing there, only that amma and that amma. So kasha on Levi. What does Levi do with this? According to Levi, l'chayra, it had what? It should have been the whole distance, not just that little piece. Got it? Nothing. You're not good.
No, am I the only one who doesn't see the pointer? I didn't see what you were pointing to.
You didn't see what I was pointing to?
It was a little cross, Nassim. Tiny cross.
Nelson, you see the pointer now?
Yes, now we see it.
Okay, you see over here where it's pointing to? Nelson, I can't hear you. You see where it's pointing to?
Yes.
Okay, now, so that little amma. Now, according to Levi, you should
I
have a
got
whole thing over here, right? That's the kasha. According to Levi, you should have a whole thing over there, and you don't have a whole thing. All you have, what, is this this little protrusion. All you have is this little protrusion. So kasha on Levi, and for Levi, my oichel nami bidamim, meaning you had a whole thing over there, but the only part that had a halacha of yisoid was that amma. Again, if you'd look at it, you'd see a square. You would have a full yisoid, but vis-a-vis the halacha of where you could put the blood, only that amma. So that's how Levi answers it. Again, physically you had, but halachically you only had an amma halachically at a din of an amma. Toshma, hamizbeach shloishim v'shtayim al shloishim v'shtayim. The mizbeach was a square, 32 by 32. Kashan Rav. According to Rav, it wasn't 32 by 32. It was 30. We had 31 because you're missing on those sides. Says the Gemara, Hachamayaskinon minat sad. It was 32 by 32 on the north and the west side. Einachinami on the east side and the south side, it was not. Toshma. Okay, I should have put this out. I didn't put it out. I should have made a. Okay, fellas. The mizbeach was 32, and the ramp was 32. So if you count it together, it's a total of 64. But it says it was 62. How do you get 62? Because the ramp covered up the south side and the south Soivev, guys. In other words, the ramp covered up. 2 of the 64 were covered up. The Soivev that went around and the Amma. What do you see? There was an Amma there, Kashan Rav. According to Rav, you didn't have an Amma there. It was empty, right? So Fred the Gemara, Nimsa Peireach, Toshma, Nimsa Peireach. Peireach means like it floats over, it covers Amma al Yisoid, one Amma of the Yisoid, the Amma al Soivev, Kashan Rav. Because according to Rav, there was no Amma there. And the Gemara, Ema Keneged Amma Yisoid, Vel Amma Soivev. In other words, Keneged, that one Amma that there was there, it wasn't a full Amma. But again, we saw the picture. There was that little projectile. Keneged that one projectile, and Keneged the Soivev, that's what it covered. So far, both have held serve. Tashma, the Tani Levi, Ketzad, again, Kashan Rav, Ketzad Boyner Mizbeach. How would they go ahead, what, and build the Mizbeach? How would they build the Mizbeach? Mevi'in Malbein, Shu Shloishim Shtayim al Shloisha Shtayim. They bring a mold. They'd bring boards that were 32 by 32, the goiva amma, and they were an amma high. Umevi chaluke avonim, and they would bring smooth stones, made pulmis. So I thought pulmis was a place, but it seems not. It seems that they were moist. They were moist. And the Rambam, guys, listen to this Rambam. The Rambam in Mibeis HaBechira Aleph Halachi Gimel says, "V'ein Oy mi makam Yam HaGadol." They bring stones from the Yam HaGadol. If you ever went to the beach, not that I did, but you'd see stones that are smoothed over because the water goes over them. So again, in the Mizbeach, guys, you can't have any notches. If you took your fingernail and moved it along and it got caught, it's not good. So you had a very smooth stones. So this is making sure that they're smooth stones. So that's the Rambam lens. Pulmis over as moist or from the Yam HaGadol. It's very nice shot. And they would bring ben gedolis ben ketanis, whether they're large or small. Umevi sid, they bring cement. The kunya seems to be like lead, glaze, the ascotaish, the zevach and tar. And you pour the cement with the stones. Do you ever see the old time cement on the ground, guys? If you all see the old time cement, it has stones in it, right? In Brooklyn, you see the stones on over here. That's what it looked like. A lot of stones with cement. It didn't look like all rock because you could not cut it with iron. So it had to be, so it was stones and it was Mizbeach Avonim, but it was filled in with a lot of cement. V'zeu makom yisoid. And that was the makom of the yisoid because it was an amahai, guys, 32 by 32. It was including the yisoid. Now it's mashma that, guys, it was a full square. That's going to be the kasha and Rav, right? You have a square and v'choyzru maybe malbein shu shloishim amma. Then you'd bring 30 al shloishim amma v'goy v'chamesh amos, and it was high 5. So now, guys, picture if you have 32 and you put 30 inside, so you have an amma on each side. You have an amma on each side, and now you're going up a total of 6. 1 for the initial amma, and now an additional 5. You're going up an additional 5. Guys, you got the kasha already. Guys, I'm just finishing the price. You have the kasha already. The kasha is from the first square. It says 32 by 32. According to Rav, it wasn't. Just to finish off the brisa. Maybe chaluki avonim. Then they bring the same thing. The chayzu maybe malben shu chav ches al chav ches. Now you had 28 by 28 amos. The goiva gimel amos. So now you have a total of 9. And you have, guys, this is the Seivev. Because you went in from 30, you went in 28. So you notice you have an other amma on both sides, right? So in other words, the base Hamikdash went like this. The Mizbeach went like this. 32 an amma, like this. Then you went up and then like this, right? It went up like that. So you get the picture. And now you have a total of 9 ammas. 1, 5, and 3 is 9. Or maybe they bring a mold that's 1 by 1, one amma by 1 amma. Or maybe chaluki avanim in pulmus, ben gedolos ben ketanos. Or maybe zefes v'kunyu u'machav v'shayfrich v'zeo keren. And they would use it 4 times, right? They went to the corners. And now that's an extra amma. So now you have the total of 10. Mizbeach was 10 ammas high. You had 1, 5, 3, and 1. So you have a kasha on Rav. According to you, Rav, how could they bring a perfect square? You wasn't a perfect square. The guy is lay. You're going to tell me they cut it. In other words, they 32 by 32. They went ahead and they cut off the yisoid on the south side and the east side. Avonim shleimus ksiv. It says avonim shleimus. And for the Gemara, the machas midei mitutai v'shakalei. You know what they did? They took boards and they put boards in those areas in the south and the east, and they took it away. In other words, so picture this: you had a full mold, and over here they put some type of a board or something, and before it dried totally, they took it away. And when it dried, you had on the east side and the west side, it was missing that. East side and the south side was missing, and the north and west, you had the full 32. Okay. Just interesting.
If you ever watch construction, that's the way they make a foundation. Where's Avrami Weinberg?
Avrami Weinberg. There's no such person as Avrami Weinberg. I'm sorry.
Wine Reb, Avi.
Wine Reb, sorry.
Weinberg is also fine. He's not here. Who cares?
Okay. Anyway, guys, a fascinating Tosfos. Guys, fascinating Tosfos. What Diber Maskal Avonim Shleimos? So he said you couldn't cut it. Tema the Habil Lakshuye Le Son of Aleim Barzel. What do you mean Avonim Shleimos? They should have said you can't cut it with iron. Guys, how are you cutting stone? Right? You cut right. So V'yesh Leimar Shas Kitzer Kan. For what's a Leimar Kemosh Medagnim Shas Mesechta by the Zara Perka Bishmael Gabi Avonim Mizbech Shishkot Saman Shayavoin Litberinu Avonim Shleimos Amrachmanol and Israel Son of Aleim. In other words, this is really it. We're giving you the abridged version. We're giving you the abridged version. But listen to the next kasha, guys. From Toimar, Ula Ovid al Yedei Shamir, the Bayis Sheni Havi Shamir. Guys, yesterday we did the Avnei Shoham. How did they go ahead and engrave in the Avnei Shoham? I mean, they would go ahead, they would put the Shamir, this unbelievable worm. Remember we had the Gemara in Gittin that Shlomo HaMelech had to go after Ashmedai. He had the Shamir, he had to fool him and everything. So l'chayra, there's a long Tosfos, and Tosfos brings rayas that the Shamir was around in the Bayesheni. Frek Tosfos the Gavaldige Kasha. You need avonim shleimus. You can't cut it with stones. So what do? Go ahead, use the shamir. And there was the shamir, right? He proves it was a shamir. Gvaldige kasha. So let's skip to the end of Taisus. Don't you wish your Rebbe did this? Skip to the end of Taisus. Like say the kasha and go skip to the end of Taisus, right? V'yesh leimar. The shamir ein oisas on shleimus shlei tachka ba'atzi pyrin. Fellas, it had to be totally smooth. The shamir could cut it. So you wouldn't have the problem of the son of La Barzel, but you would have a problem that it wasn't totally smooth. He would make it jagged. He'd make it jagged, so it won't be totally smooth. Memela, that's why you couldn't use the shamir. Again, there's two problems. You need A, that you can't cut it with iron, and B, if you take your fingernail and go across, it couldn't get like the chalif of a shaykhit. You put your fingernail on it, it can't get stuck. So that's the yes, l'chayra. So he answers that what the shamir would not be accomplished. That's an interesting taisus to know. Okay, says the Gemara Vaita. The ilay teimahachi, that if you say that they didn't take wood or some type of material to remove that side, hada amar Rav Kahana, avonim shel kronos chalulos hayu. The stones of the horns were hollow. Tichsiv umaloi kamizrak, and you should fill up like a bowl. Kizavias hamizbeach, the corners of the mizbeach. So it's mashma that the horns had to be filled in. Now hachanami avon shleim sam rachmana. What do you have to conclude? The machas midi mitutai b'shakalei. They put some type of material inside, and they would pull it out, and you would have a hole over there. Hachanami the machas midi mitutai b'shakalei. Now I want to digress to discuss this a little bit because Baruch Hashem we have a lot of time. Says Rashi, the machas midi mitutai. Okay, that's not the one. Anyway, Eitzarech v'oivav koive hamalbein v'cholak v'niach v'toich hamalbein v'loyachali davik im chaluki avonim al yidei fichas
Something's beeping down here.
What? What's that? A burp from Cleveland. Okay, anyway.
It was a panic button.
Okay, so he's your worker. Anyway, Rashi says, "Krone shel mizbeach chalulas hayu nikavim amukim." There were holes, deep holes, ba'arba asan sheyipol dam hachatas, that the dam hachatas should fall in, v'yavli elisaychai, and be absorbed inside. So the purpose of these holes was to go ahead, and the damachata should go in and be absorbed. Let's see Taisus. Umola kimizor kizabias mizbeach. Havimatzi lasuya maslisam sech the midos. Ubekerim aravis terachvis hayushnei nekavim. In the north southwest side there were two holes. Kimin shnei chaytmin dakin, like two nostrils. Shehadamim hayinoisnim al yisoid jeroimis, and that the damim they put there. Yardim behem, umisarvim ba'ama, and they will be misarv ba'ama. So, guys, it doesn't mean the keren; it means on the yisoid. Remember, we said yesterday we had a machlokes when they came. Where did they put the dam? On the south or the west? We had a machlokes yesterday, right? What was that speaking about? On that over here. Okay, the picture over here, right? That guys over here. Look, can you see? No, you can see by 22. Over here, there was a hole over here, and there was a hole over here, a hole on the south side and that side. So in other words, you could say that Tosha says, why do you have to be in the Keren? You could have brought over here, that over here they had to go ahead and somehow make holes. They had to go ahead over there, somehow make holes, because you needed that it was deep enough that it would go down, and it go down over there. So you could have done that. They would get mixed into the canal going out. So why would they go at? No, it's Tyson asking a kasha. The Kronos were the only places that you had to go ahead and put sticks in to create this hole. On the site itself, you had to create it. Yes, again, that the blood would go in the side and go out. It was connected to that canal that went outside the Beis Hamikdash. So and for Tosfos, Elanichle lasuye de Rav Kahana mishum kra, because he's bringing a pasuk. In other words, if you look, guys, he brings a pasuk. Moloi kimizrei kizavius mizbeach. Zavius mizbeach means the Kronos. So Memela, since you have a pasuk, better to bring a raya from there because of the pasuk rather than what. But in Achinami, you could have brought a raya from the site itself. Uva kunchis perish shanakavim hoyu bedalit Kronos. Sheyipol dam chatas l'seichon v'yivla v'tema the perushai shlehoya hamatonis l'mayla el keneged chuda b'mechutz. Where did you put the dam of the chatas, guys? You put it. We saw machlokes yesterday. Either you put it over here an amar away, or you went like this. But you didn't go over here. Rashi's learning that it fell in over here, and you had to have a hole over here. Yesterday's daf, it was either over here or over here. Tosfos remains tema. Now, remember I brought in very often the Toras Chaim, the Sefer Toras Chaim. He wrote a pirish on, I have it for you over there. I keep the place. He wrote a pirish. He wrote a pirish on Kachim called Soin Kachim. So I found over in his parish the following pshat, which I'll share with you, and then we'll ask on it.
Maybe he means where the Kronos were. It was right below the Kronos on the ground.
Rashi says they put the holes on the top. Rashi says that there should shlayipol, it shouldn't fall in. Guys, you see Hebrew words in Rashi's letters? Okay, this is the Tain Kashim. You have a Shimon? Yeah. Ve'efshel loymar, the Kavanas Rashi, shem yipol mizrika al hakronos yivla l'seichai. If it would fall from the zrika on the kronos, it would go ahead and fall inside. Umishum hachi kasav Rashi lashon yipol. Therefore, Rashi said the lashon to fall v'loi kasav kishe yizroi. Guys, look at Rashi again. Where Rashi in the left side, about 6-7 lines down. Rashi, right? It says the kavim amukim, but arba asan sheyipol is medayik that saying kachim. It doesn't say sheyizroik. It says the lashon sheyipol. What does that mean? Shem yipol mizrika ala kranais. Lashon yipol v'leksiv kishezoyrik dam chachatas yivla d'sleichai. El karcha kavanas Rashi kasher kasavti v'nachan hu nerali. So he wants to answer that when they did zrika, it may go ahead. And he's medayik the lashon of yipol. That not that it would go there initially. You would do a zrika on the side, and then it would fall in. You hear what he wants to say, fellas? He wants a taina that not that lichatchili you'd put it there, because you put it on the side or you put it over here. But if you did a zrika, it would fall in, and he likes that pshat. I don't understand. I'm not zeichet to understand the pshat. Rashi says sheyipol dam hachatas. Every zrika, fellas, is only by an asham. It's only by an oila. It's only by a shlamim. And that was below the chut sikra. There's no zrika by a chatas. Chatas, you have to dab with your fingers. And Rashi himself says, sheyipol dam chatas. So how can he possibly say there's a zrika by the chatas? In other words, he's medayik that lashon yipol, that meaning if you did a zrika, it's going to fall in. How can you do a zrika? There is no zrika. So I'm not zeicha to understand what the Tain Kachim means. You hear my problem? The zrika only pass by, it doesn't pass by chatos.
Which Rashi is that?
The Rashi is, when you go to the top and you go down, when the lines get wide, about 7 lines down, it says, the kavim amukim. Right? Yeah. Yeah, the kasha shema. Makes no sense, right? I don't know. Okay, anyway, that's what he says. I thought I'd share with you. So listen, we got to bring the Toras Chaim somewhere, right? You can't throw a Masech without bringing the Toras Chaim. It's one of our favorite prushim.
Maybe we didn't we learn yesterday that the Kohen would push the blood up. In other words, there was excess
He
blood.
pushed the blood up on his finger, Rabbi Avi.
So maybe then when pushing it up, some of it would fall down.
But he wasn't that high. He only this would only work according to Shimon ben Elazar, who says it was on the Karen itself.
Right.
But even according to him, the Teres Chatas uses the lashon of zrika. That's not a zrika, right? You're pushing the blood up. It's not a zrika. He's still only going up that direction, right? Okay, you hear the attempted teretz and you hear the attempted kasha. The kasha is much better than the attempted teretz. The kasha is a gewaldige kasha. I mean, Mehecha takes that's going to be like that. Okay, now we conclude. How do we know the mizbeach, the makom of the Beis Hamikdash? How do we know the makom of the Beis Hamikdash? Geshmaka Agadata. Says the Gemara. Darish Rava, my dichsev, vayelech David u'Shmuel. David and Shmuel went. Vayeshvu b'noyes b'Rama, and they were sitting in Noyes in Rama. V'chima inyan Noyes eitzel Rama. Noyes is the name of a place. U'Rama is the name of a place. You can't be in two places at the same time. Elishaya Yoshvim b'Rama. Shmuel Haramasi, guys. Shmuel is in Rama. Shmuel Haramasi. They were sitting in Rama. V'oiskin b'noyev shaloylam. And they were being oisik in what? In the beauty of the world. The beauty of the world is the Beis HaMikdash. Nowhere does it say in the Torah where the Beis HaMikdash is located. Who found the location? David and Shmuel. This is the Gemara that tells you they found the location of. Now, how'd they find it? The Chsiv. It says, "V'kamto ve'alisa," you'll get up and you'll go up. Elamakoim. So what do you know from here? Malamed shebeis hamikdash gavoyim mikol Eretz Yisrael. It says, "V'kamto ve'alisa," you'll get up and be oila regel fel. It's literally oila. Why would it be oila? Because it's the highest part in Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael gavoyim mikol Eretz. Rashi says that's just not necessary for the limud, but it happens to be Eretz Yisrael is the highest. They didn't know exactly in which chelik, which shevet it belonged to, which is this place. So I see Sefer Yeshua. They bought the Sefer Yeshua, and Bekula Ksiv Vayered Va'ala Hagavul V'Taya Hagavul B'Shevet Binyamin Va'ala Ksiv V'Yared Loikasiv. The only one of the Shvatim where it says you go up and you don't come down, right? The only one of the Shvatim was Binyamin. It says Allah, you go up, so they knew it was in the Chelik of Binyamin. So what do? Shmamina Hachi Umakaimai. They failed to go ahead and build it. Be'ein Eitan. The highest place in Yerushalayim is a place called Ein Eitan. So they thought that that's where you should put it. However, the Madli, they went ahead and that's the highest point. Sa'amri Nitate Be Kalo. We have to go ahead and put it down a little bit. We're gonna have to put it down. D'chsiv ubenk seifav shachein. Now, the highest point of a human head is what? Is the head. So the shoulders are lower. So it couldn't be over here on our Eitan. It could be over the Eitan. It had to be lower than that. It had to be what? It had to be lower than that. And therefore, they knew that to put it down. They knew that they had to go ahead what and put it down a little lower because there's been sheva shachem. Another reason why they put in Yerushalayim rather than in Eitam is Gemiri the Sanhedrin bechelkoi de Yehuda, that the Sanhedrin is in the chelik of Yehuda, u'shchina bechelkoi de Binyamin, and the Shchina was in the chelik of Binyamin, right? That the Aron was in the chelik of Binyamin, and the Lishkas Hagazis, where the Umechoikim bein Raglov, the Mechoikim of Yehuda, they had to be up there also. So here's the problem: the Madenle, if they would go ahead and put it on Eitam, mispilgo, mispelig tuva, you'd have what? A very, very good distance between Yehuda and Binyamin. So mutav the nitate be porta. Let's bring it a little closer in Yerushalayim. K'dichsiv ubenk seifav shachein. That the Sanhedrin should go ahead and be sitting there. So two pshatim, either because it didn't make any sense they Eitam because of benk seifav, or benk seifav over here referring to the Sanhedrin should be in close proximity to Binyamin. Benk seifav, that's where Binyamin sits, where the Oren is. Okay, I want to. Okay, yeah. Just anyway, the Valdav is there, and the fact that David discovered the makom of the Migdash, Niskani Doig HaDoimi b'David. He was Doig HaDovi. We met in Chelik. He hated David. He was Shaul's advisor. He advised Shaul to kill David. He's the one who wiped out Novir Kohanim. He's the one who has no chelik in Olam Haba. He only lived to 33 years old, and he lost his chelik in Olam Haba, or 34 years old. He lost his chelik in Olam Haba as a result, and this he was miskana David very much. He was miskana David very much. Kidechsiv ki kinas beischa achalasni, right? Ki kinas beischa achalasni, for the kina of your house, it's devoured me. The kina that he felt regarding the fact that David found the place. Okay, uksiv sacha Hashem leDavid as kol unoisai asher nishbal Hashem. Hashem remembered David for all his inoi, for all the inoi. What asher nishbal Hashem in avoy ba'oil basi imetain shnas leinai laf apoy snumi emsa. In other words, David said he shouldn't sleep till he finds the place of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Hine shanuna befrasim mitzanuna b'stayar. In Ephras we found a field. Ephras is a Yeshua, the Kasim Ephraim. Mitzanua b'stayar zebinyamin dechsiv b'zamin ye'ed yitrof. So I just to give you a little background of what's going on over here, and perhaps suggest something that entered my mind. The background over here is David's a fugitive for his life. David is running from Shaul. Shaul wants to kill him. Doeg is inciting him to kill him, and he wants to kill him. David was Mari b'Malchus. He was a king and pointed in the lifetime of a king. Ein Mari Malchus Gedai Lemizu. And Shaul is trying to kill him. And David runs away. Now you would think a fugitive, a person like that, couldn't possibly concentrate on anything of substance, of anything that requires tremendous iyun. And what is David busy doing? What is David busy doing? He's busy finding the Makam HaMizbeach, the Makam HaMikdash. In that light, we can understand the kin of Doeg even more. Can you imagine? A person who's a fugitive, a person who has every right not to learn a word, not to open a sefer, and David is being maimin in mamish, baruma shalaylam. He's being busy with the deepest things and the most gaharbina, lofty ideas to find the Makam HaMikdash. David finds the Makam HaMikdash. Guys, David even gives the dimensions of the Beis HaMikdash. Alai Maskil, everything David did. You remember we spoke about adding. You can't add anything because David gave. Not only did he find a place, he even gave the dimensions, gave everything, and it's a tremendous background. And I think just to lay to something, I think that is Nakuda. The halacha, they bring down these 3 mitzvahs upon entering Eretz Yisrael: to go ahead and appoint a king, to destroy Amalek, and build the Beis HaMikdash. In that order. David's appointed the king. He knows he's going to be the king. Right now, he doesn't have the capacity to go ahead and destroy Amalek. But I'd like to suggest that at least he's preparing for the mitzvah that eventually he will do. The mitzvah after destroying Amalek, the mitzvah of going ahead and building the Beis HaMikdash. And therefore, Dafka David is looking for the Makam HaMikdash. Perhaps that would go ahead, give us a perspective of what's going on over here. Okay, a word for Shabbos. By the Akedah guys, this is mamish. The Akedah is well. First of all, this is a great kasha. Last week's parsha, at the end of last week's parsha, Parshas Lech Lecha, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Avram, you can have a child from Sarah, and you can name it Yitzchak. Good. Vayeri lo Hashem, Malachim show up. Ayei Sarah Yishtecha, Sarah Shemas. And she's laughing inside. How's it possible? Hastus that he never told her. Guys, how's he talking? Avram Avinu got this besura that he's going to have a child from Sarah. This woman's been an almana for how many years? Akara for how many years? I don't know. And finally, you get news from God that you're going to have a child. And would you think that he would share it with his wife? But you see, clearly he didn't. What's going on over here? So Derech Pshat, says the Ramban, most of the world learns that it was the 3rd day of the Milah, because Rashi says it. So it was the 3rd day of the Milah, it's the hardest day, and that would lend itself to a question. He had 3 days to go ahead and inform his wife. Says the Ramban, that's not what happened. Avram got 2 things. He got the mitzvah of Milah, and he got this information. Avram, this reason makdim lemitzvahs, be'etzem hayom hazeh. What did Avram do? He mauled hundreds of people from his house, and in addition, he gave himself a bris milah at 99. Avram Avinu just was sitting there, guys. He had a tough day, trust me. He is exhausted. He is so tired. There's nothing he can do. He's in tremendous pain. It's not the third day of the Milah. It's mamish what happened at the end of Lech Lecha. It goes right into here. He didn't have time to tell her. That's Pashup Pshat. He didn't have time to tell her. A more deeper Pshat is you have a choice to hear this information from a bus of Adam or to hear from the Rebbeinu Shalom directly. Avram knew Sarah was bigger in the Nevuah than Avram. Kolasha Ama Sarah Shema B'Koilah. Koil is Lashon Nevuah. He knew that Hashem would tell her. So Avram withheld telling her, waiting for Hashem to tell her. And that would be the pshat. That would be the pshat. Okay, enough. Good.
Shkaya.
Have a great Shabbos, everybody.